The air in the kitchen felt thick, like it was holding its breath, as Mark stood frozen, his hand still clutching the edge of the counter. The words his wife, Clara, had just spat at him. "Don't kiss me, stop," hung between them, sharp and final, slicing through the quiet hum of their suburban home. Her eyes, usually soft and warm, were cold, darting away from his gaze as if he were a stranger. Mark's heart thudded, a dull ache spreading through his chest. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. For 12 years, their marriage had been a steady rhythm, imperfect but familiar, like a favorite song played on repeat. They'd built a life together. A modest house with a creaky porch swing, a daughter who loved soccer, and quiet evenings spent laughing over takeout. But lately, Clara had been distant, her smiles forced, her touch fleeting. Mark had chalked it up to stress, her new job, the endless demands of parenting. But this moment, this rejection, felt like a crack in the foundation of everything he thought he knew. "Why?" he asked, his voice low, almost afraid of the answer. Clara's lips parted, but no words came. She turned away, busying herself with the dishes, her movements jerky, like she was trying to outrun the question. The clatter of plates filled the silence, but it couldn't drown out the unease gnawing at Mark's gut. "I'm just tired," she mumbled finally, her back still to him. "It's been a long day." Mark wanted to believe her. He wanted to wrap his arms around her, to feel the warmth of her laughter against his chest like he used to. But her words felt hollow, and the space between them stretched wider than the kitchen table. The doorbell rang, a sharp interruption. Clara's shoulders tensed, and she glanced toward the hallway. "That's probably Lena," she said quickly, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "I forgot she was coming over." Lena, Clara's cousin, was a whirlwind of energy, always bursting into their lives with stories of her latest adventures. Mark liked her, or at least he thought he did. She was bold, unapologetic, the kind of person who could make a room feel alive. But tonight, her arrival felt like an intrusion. As Clara hurried to the door, Mark lingered in the kitchen, his fingers tracing the grain of the countertop. He heard the murmur of voices, Lena's bright laugh cutting through the air. Then footsteps. Clara reappeared, Lena trailing behind her, a bottle of wine in hand. "Mark, you're looking serious tonight," Lena teased, her dark eyes glinting as she set the bottle on the counter. "Trouble in paradise?" Mark forced a smile, but it felt like a grimace. "Just a long day," he echoed Clara's excuse, his voice flat. Lena's gaze lingered on him, a flicker of something unreadable passing across her face before she turned to Clara. "Let's open this," Lena said, grabbing a corkscrew. "We need to catch up." The evening dragged on, the three of them seated in the living room, the wine bottle emptying faster than Mark expected. Clara was animated, her laughter louder than it had been in weeks, but it wasn't for him. It was for Lena. Her stories, her jokes, the way she leaned in close, their shoulders brushing. Mark watched, an outsider in his own home, the ache in his chest growing sharper. He excused himself to take a call, though his phone hadn't rung. Outside, the night air was cool, the stars hidden behind a veil of clouds. He leaned against the porch railing, trying to shake the feeling that something was slipping away from him. The door creaked open behind him, and he turned, expecting Clara. But it was Lena. "Hey," she said softly, stepping closer. Her perfume, sharp and floral, hit him like a memory he couldn't place. "Wait for me outside." She hesitated, her eyes searching his. "I need to tell you something." Mark's stomach twisted. "What is it?" Lena glanced back toward the house, where Clara's silhouette moved behind the curtains. "Not here," she whispered. "Meet me by the oak tree at the end of the street in 10 minutes. Before he could respond, she slipped back inside, leaving him alone with the weight of her words. Suspense coiled in his chest, a mix of dread and curiosity. What could Lena possibly need to say that Clara couldn't hear? 10 minutes later, Mark stood under the sprawling branches of the oak tree, the street lamp casting long shadows across the pavement. Lena appeared, her footsteps quick and purposeful. She stopped a few feet away, her expression uncharacteristically serious. "Mark, I can't keep this from you anymore," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Clara's been lying to you." The world tilted. Mark's breath caught, and he braced himself against the tree, the rough bark biting into his palm. "What are you talking about?" Lena's eyes softened, but there was no warmth in them. She's been seeing someone. For months. The words hit like a physical blow, knocking the air from his lungs. Mark shook his head, as if he could shake them away. No. That's not possible. Clara wouldn't. She would. Lena cut in, her voice firm. I've seen them together. Late nights, when she says she's working late. It's not work, Mark. It's him. Him. The word echoed in Mark's mind, conjuring images he didn't want to see. Clara's late nights, her sudden need for space, the way she flinched at his touch. It all clicked into place, a puzzle he hadn't wanted to solve. Who? He managed, his voice raw. Lena hesitated, her gaze dropping to the ground. His name's David. He works with her. David. The name was a knife, twisting deeper. Mark had met him once at a company party, a charming guy with an easy smile. He'd thought nothing of it then. Now the memory burned. Why are you telling me this? Mark asked, his voice breaking. Why now? Lena stepped closer, her hand brushing his arm. Because you deserve to know. Because I care about you. Her words felt wrong, like a script read out of order. Mark pulled away, his mind racing. Was Lena trying to help him? Or was there something else at play? The doubt gnawed at him, but the betrayal, Clara's betrayal, hurt more. He stumbled back to the house, his thoughts a chaotic blur. Inside, Clara was still in the living room, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, her smile faltering when she saw his face. Mark, what's wrong? He wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he sat across from her, the distance between them a chasm. Are you happy? He asked, his voice barely audible. Clara frowned, setting her phone down. What kind of question is that? Are you happy with me? He pressed, his eyes searching hers for the truth. She hesitated, and in that pause Mark saw everything. The guilt, the secrets, the love that had slipped away. I don't know, she admitted finally, her voice small. I've been trying, Mark. But it's hard. Hard. He laughed, a bitter sound. Hard enough to turn to someone else? To David. Her face went pale, her eyes wide with shock. Who told you? The confirmation was a final blow, shattering what little hope he'd clung to. Mark stood, his hands trembling. It doesn't matter who told me. What matters is you didn't. Clara reached for him, but he stepped back, the pain too raw to let her close. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said, tears streaming down her face. I was lonely, Mark. You were always working, always distracted. I needed someone. Her words were a mirror, reflecting his own failures. He hadn't been perfect, hadn't noticed her slipping away. But that didn't erase the betrayal, the trust she'd broken. I loved you, he said, his voice cracking. I still do. Clara sobbed, her hands covering her face, but Mark couldn't stay. He grabbed his keys and walked out, the door slamming behind him. The night swallowed him, the stars still hidden, the world as broken as his heart. Under the oak tree he stood alone, the weight of Clara's betrayal pressing down on him. He didn't know what came next, forgiveness, separation, or something in between. But as the wind whispered through the leaves, one truth anchored him. He deserved better than lies. And somehow he'd find a way to heal.